once I say hello, 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 hello. You can't do what I do, that's just something you don't.
Hey, what's up guys, TechTitan here and I'm back again with a brand new video. So before I begin this video, I just want to express to you guys how much I am grateful for everyone who's been subscribing to the channel. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and consider doing so. Also leave a thumbs up if you enjoy my content. Okay, so with that being said, I finally got my hands on the 2024 Motorola Moto G Power. So I've only had this phone for a few hours, so I don't really have anything to give you guys kind of a definitive conclusion on how good or how bad this phone is, but I have enough information right now to give you kind of a first impressions. So let's go ahead and begin and talk about the design itself. So this seems like a familiar kind of thing that Motorola is doing, which is adding this leather, or what they call vegan leather material, to the back of their phones nowadays. Now it feels nice. I found that this black color in particular does catch dust, so it makes it a little bit harder to clean. As for the sides of the phone, they are made out of plastic and they don't feel all that quality, to be honest with you. The back feels decent. The back also houses your dual camera setup, with the housing around it also made out of plastic. It's not like the Moto G 5G or the Moto G Stylus 5G where the leather kind of wraps around that camera housing. As far as your port selection goes, you have a headphone jack, again in 2024, so the theme is still going, a microphone, your USB-C that does support really nice 30 watt of turbo power or fast charging, and your bottom facing speaker. As far as your right hand side goes, you do have your power / fingerprint button and the volume up and down. I would say that these buttons are a little bit of a disappointment, so they're not really clicky, they're really mushy and not that tactile, so not good buttons in general. But they work, they do the job, so that's just is what it is. So as far as the design in general, this is it's an average design. It's a basic design. The vegan leather is nice for the grip, but there's a lot of plastic going on with this phone. I understand at the end of the day, it is a kind of a budget device. I just wish that they made it look a little bit more premium than this, but that's a story for another day. So now let's go ahead and switch the topic of conversation and talk a little bit about the display. So this time around, Motorola did give us a 6.7-inch Full HD Plus display, which is an IPS panel, so it is an IPS LCD panel, not an AMOLED display like the Moto G Stylus 5G, and honestly not that different from the previous generation, if I should say so myself. So as far as sharpness and detail, it's there, it's a Full HD display. If you really want to nitpick and try to find things that are wrong with this display, it would be the fact that if you really zoom in, you'll kind of see over the edge bleeding, especially when the background of the phone is white. So it also does support a 120 Hz refresh rate that you can mess around and control in the display settings, where you can either leave it at 120 Hz, put it 60 Hz, or put it in automatic mode where it would decide which one works best for you. So all in all, not a lot has changed in the display department. Last year's generation was also a Full HD IPS panel that also did support 120 Hz. So not a lot of major changes when it comes to the display itself. It definitely gets a pass. It's not a horrible display, it's just not where it needs to be right now. Okay, so I want to speak a little bit on the camera system of this phone. So you get a dual camera sensor with a 50 megapixel main sensor. In addition to that, you do get an 8 megapixel ultra wide sensor, and the main sensor does have optical image stabilization. Now, this camera in particular, I'm not gonna expect it to, kind of shock me as far as photo quality or even video quality, because it only maxes out at 1080p at 30 frames per second as far as video, so no 4K recording or anything like that, which is alright for a phone at this price point. I'm not too mad about it, but the interface itself is fantastic. I will be doing a full camera review, so be on the lookout for that. I only had this phone a couple of hours, took only a couple of pictures, so I can't give you guys, again, a definitive conclusion on the camera itself. Okay, so the specs real quick on the performance. For whatever reason, every phone lineup for Motorola, as far as the Moto G 5G, Moto G Stylus 5G, or even the Moto Razr, uses kind of a Qualcomm Snapdragon setup, except for this phone, which uses the MediaTek Dimensity 7020, which is a budget processor, 128GB of storage, 8GB of RAM, and 5000 milliamp hour battery. As far as the performance in general, from what I've seen so far, is just what I would expect. The daily tasks, things that you do on like a daily basis, your basic tasks, your phone app, your messaging app, your browser, anything that requires minimal kind of a CPU GPU performance, it does really well, and it should in this day and age, right? And even multitasking, thanks to that 8 gigabytes of RAM, is really nice. So they definitely doubled the amount of RAM from the previous generation, which is nice. But in my opinion, the biggest feature in the performance, and I guess you could say it's part of the performance, would be in the wireless charging capability. So, which shocked me, by the way. I did not expect them to do that. So if you think about it, this might be the biggest upgrade for this phone. You do get a fast 15 watt of wireless charging, which is fantastic if you are into that type of stuff. I personally use wireless chargers all the time, so it's a nice addition to see on kind of a budget device. And I think this is kind of becoming a wave in which manufacturers are actually putting wireless chargers on their kind of low to mid-range devices, which is nice to see. I can definitely respect that. However, the name of the phone has been misleading lately. So the Moto G Power used to stand for the power of its battery life. Nowadays, it's questioning what it really stands for. What does the power mean, right? It doesn't certainly mean performance as far as the chipset goes. So we'll see. I'm not gonna knock this phone out of the woods just yet. I will give it its fair shake and its fair kind of look. So with that being said, I want to hear your guys' thoughts. What do you think about the Moto G Power? If you have it, if you already bought it, how do you feel about this new generation compared to the previous generation? Is it worth the upgrade, or is it worth it to just go ahead and look at the Moto G Stylus 5G?